All right, let's dig into this research you've got on the CEO life cycle.
Okay.
It's pretty fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, we all know being a CEO is a tough gig, right?
Yeah.
But this breaks it down into distinct phases, almost like climbing Yosemite's Dawn Wall.
Yeah.
Getting the job is just the start.
Right.
The hardest climb is still ahead.
Yeah. What's often overlooked, I think, is that the role's constantly evolving.
Right.
It's not just about, having a set of business skills.
Yeah.
It's about how a leader adapts their mindset, how they handle pressure, and constantly reinvent themselves over time.
And, we've got some great examples of CEOs.
Yes.
Like Carol Tomei at UPS.
Right.
And Mary Barra at GM, who've navigated these stages pretty successfully. So let's start at the very beginning.
Okay.
Year one.
Yeah.
The launch phase.
The launch.
You mentioned there's usually a surge of energy and expectation around a new CEO.
Absolutely. There's often a share price bump, right, reflecting the market's optimism.
Oh, interesting.
Kind of a honeymoon period,
Right.
like when George Paz took over at Express Scripts.
Yeah.
Their share price jumped significantly,
Wow.
even surpassing competitors who were also making big moves at the time.
So everyone's excited.
Yeah.
But there's got to be a ton of pressure to prove yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
For sure.
What are some of the immediate challenges CEOs face in this initial launch phase?
One of the biggest is balancing the demands of so many stakeholders.
Okay.
You've got the board, employees,
Right.
investors,
Uh-huh.
the media. Building trust and delivering early wins are crucial.
Okay.
This is where I think Carol Tomei's leadership at UPS during the pandemic surge really stands out.
I remember reading about that.
Yeah.
What impressed me was that she not only tackled the immediate challenges of the pandemic,
Right.
but also started laying the groundwork for long-term
Yeah.
changes, like expanding into healthcare logistics.
Exactly.
It's like she had this dual focus
Yeah.
on putting out fires while also mapping out a new route.
Exactly. And that's a key takeaway for aspiring leaders, right? Demonstrate competence in the present
Yeah,
while showcasing a vision for the future.
I like that.
But this launch phase is a bit like being in a fishbowl.
Oh, really?
Every move is analyzed.
I see.
Sources indicate that many new CEOs feel overwhelmed
Yeah.
by the sheer volume of demands on their time and attention.
Okay, so you make it through year one.
Right.
You scored some early wins,
Hopefully.
but then things get interesting in year two.
Okay.
The calibration phase.
Celebration.
You call this the sophomore slump.
The sophomore slump.
I'm picturing a basketball player who had a great rookie season, but now everyone expects them to be an all-star.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
The initial excitement fades, and performance is reassessed more critically.
I see.
Our research shows that share prices often dip during this phase.
Wait, so even if the CEO is performing well,
Yeah.
exceeding expectations,
Yeah.
The share price could still drop.
It can.
Why is that?
Well, sometimes the initial share price boost was inflated,
oh, okay.
or maybe those early wins don't translate into sustained growth.
Uh-huh.
But there's another fascinating factor at play here.
Okay.
The emotional discount.
The emotional discount.
Yeah.
What is that?
Think of it this way.
Okay.
Investors lack the inside knowledge
Right.
that the CEO and the board have.
Okay.
They're reacting to more readily available metrics like share price. So if they won't see those numbers skyrocketing,
Right.
they might hesitate,
Yeah.
even if the company's making solid progress.
So how does a CEO navigate this sophomore slump?
Okay.
What does it take to thrive in this calibration phase?
It's about developing what the research calls informed intuition.
Informed intuition.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not just about gut feelings. It's about blending data-driven analysis
Right.
with a deep understanding of the business and its nuances. Like Jim Kriege at Church & Dwight, he faced this slump,
Yeah.
even though profits were surging.
Wow.
But he used his informed intuition to stay the course.
Okay.
And eventually, the market caught up.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
It sounds like this phase is about finding that balance
Yeah.
between trusting your gut
Right.
and backing it up with solid information.
Exactly.
So year one is about making a splash.
Yeah.
Year two is about proving your staying power. What comes next?
That takes us to the reinvention phase,
Okay.
roughly years 3 to 5.
3 to 5.
This is where those early moves start yielding results.
Okay.
And CEOs have the credibility to launch larger scale initiatives.
Mary Barr's push into electric vehicles at GM is a perfect example.
Accurate.
She laid the groundwork in the earlier stages,
Right.
and then she used that momentum to make a bold, transformative move.
Yes.
It wasn't just about reacting to the market.
Right.
It was about shaping the future of the industry.
Exactly. And this stage really highlights how the CEO lifecycle isn't linear.
I see.
Success in one phase is built on the foundation laid in the previous ones.
Okay.
But this reinvention phase requires a different kind of leadership.
All right.
A promotion focus.
Okay, what does promotion focus mean in this context?
It's about shifting from a mindset of avoiding losses to a mindset of playing to win. The
Interesting.
CEOs need to be willing to take calculated risks,
Yeah.
drive innovation, and not just play it safe.
Okay.
It's about thinking big and bold,
Right.
using that hard-earned credibility to really make a mark.
That shift in mindset makes sense. It's almost like transitioning from a defensive strategy to an offensive one.
Yeah,
We've weathered the initial storms, and now it's time to go on the attack, so to speak.
exactly. And this is where a fascinating concept comes into play, what some experts call Moneyball for CEOs.
Now, this sounds intriguing.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this Moneyball for CEOs idea.
So remember Billy Beane?
Yeah.
The Oakland A's general manager who revolutionized baseball by using data to identify undervalued players?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same principle applied to leadership.
So instead of just looking at a CEO's pedigree or years of experience,
Right.
you're looking at specific skills that actually predict success.
Precisely. And what's surprising is the emphasis on softer skills.
Oh, interesting.
Influencing,
Cool.
inspiring,
Mhm.
building trust.
Right.
These qualities are essential for leading in today's world,
Yeah.
especially with millennial and Gen Z workers who prioritize purpose and connection.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You can't just command and control anymore.
Right.
You need to be able to connect with and empower your team.
And this Moneyball for CEOs concept seems particularly relevant to you,
Yeah,
given your interest in building a leadership development plan.
it is.
It's about identifying those critical leadership skills
Well,
and actively cultivating them regardless of your current position.
It's definitely making me rethink my own approach to leadership development.
Good.
But let's get back to the CEO life cycle.
Okay.
What happens after this reinvention phase?
All right.
Does it get any easier?
Not necessarily. In
Right.
fact, years 6 to 9 present their own unique challenges.
Okay.
The complacency trap.
The complacency trap.
Yeah.
That sounds a bit ominous.
It can be.
What's the danger here?
Think about it.
Yeah.
You've navigated the early turbulence.
Right.
You're seeing success.
Mm-hmm.
There's a natural tendency to become a bit overconfident, maybe even complacent.
And in the fast-paced world of business,
Yeah,
that can be a recipe for disaster, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Even seasoned CEOs can fall into this trap.
Right.
They might overlook potential threats,
Uh-huh.
miss emerging opportunities,
Right.
or become resistant to change.
Okay.
A.G. Lafley's second stint at P&G is a classic example.
Oh, yeah.
He achieved incredible success in his first run,
Mm-hmm.
but the second time around, he
Yeah.
struggled to adapt to new market reality.
So what are the warning signs of this complacency trap?
Okay.
How can a CEO avoid getting stuck in this rut?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is that success can actually make it harder to get honest feedback.
Oh, interesting.
People are less likely to challenge you when things are going well.
It's like that saying, success has many fathers, but failure is an orphan.
Exactly, and that's why it's crucial to actively seek out diverse perspectives,
Okay.
challenge your own assumptions,
Right.
and cultivate a culture that encourages constructive criticism.
That reminds me of Nigel Travis,
Yeah.
the former CEO of Dunkin'.
Right.
He talked about attending industry events
Uh-huh.
and even seeking out critics of the company
Wow.
to get that outside perspective.
That's a great example of a leader actively fighting against complacency.
Yeah.
It's about staying vigilant,
Right.
continuously seeking improvement,
Uh-huh.
and recognizing that past success doesn't guarantee future success.
Okay, so you've got to stay hungry.
You gotta stay.
Stay humble and never stop learning.
That's right.
What happens after this complacency trap?
Okay.
Where does the CEO journey lead next?
That brings us to the final stage,
Right.
the legacy years.
Legacy,
Yeah,
typically 10 years and beyond.
10 plus years.
That sounds weighty.
It is.
What are the key themes of this phase?
This stage is about long-term sustainability,
Oh, okay.
succession planning,
Mm-hmm.
and leaving a lasting impact on the organization.
Right.
Think of Lou Hay at Nextera Energy.
Yeah.
He transformed the company into a renewable energy leader.
Wow.
setting them up for success long after his tenure.
That's a powerful example
Yeah.
of building a legacy that extends far beyond your time in the CEO chair.
Absolutely.
But there must be unique challenges in this phase as well,
Yeah.
right? I mean, maintaining that drive and energy over such a long period
It's hard.
can't be easy.
It's a challenge many CEOs face.
Yeah.
And then there's the difficulty of letting go of control and ensuring a smooth transition to a successor. The research highlights how this transition can be a real struggle for many CEOs.
Really?
They've poured their heart and soul into the company,
Yeah.
and stepping back can feel like a huge loss of purpose.
It's like that what now moment after you finally reach the summit of Everest.
Exactly.
So thoughtful succession planning is crucial in this legacy phase.
Yes.
Not just for the company,
Right.
but for the CEO as well.
Absolutely.
Speaking of succession planning, that's a topic you specifically wanted to explore.
Yeah.
And we have a whole section on that coming up.
Yes, we do.
But before we get there, I'm curious about something.
Okay.
All of these examples we've been discussing are from public companies.
Right.
But how does the CEO journey differ in the world of private equity?
Yeah.
I mean, the dynamics are quite different, right?
That's a fantastic question.
Yeah.
And it's actually the cliffhanger we'll leave you with for now.
Oh.
We've seen how the CEO life cycle unfolds in a public company context.
Right.
But how does it play out in the high-stakes world of private equity?
Think about it.
Yeah.
The intense pressure to deliver quick returns, the hands-on involvement of PE firms, the potentially shorter tenures.
Right.
Does the CEO life cycle look different in that setting?
We'll tackle those questions when we come back.
Okay, sounds good. Welcome back. We just left off talking about how the CEO's journey might look different in the world of private equity.
Right.
What stood out to me in these sources is how involved PE firms are with their portfolio companies.
Yeah.
It's way more hands-on than the typical public company board.
That's right. It's not just about providing capital.
Right.
They're deeply involved in strategy, operations,
Okay.
and even talent development.
Interesting.
The sources describe it as a leadership triad.
A leadership triad.
It's the CEO, the PE deal lead, and the board all working in close partnership.
So it's like having a very engaged and demanding board,
Yeah.
but also one with a ton of expertise and resources.
Right.
That must create a unique set of challenges for the CEO.
Absolutely. It can feel like a double-edged sword.
How so?
On one hand, you have access to a wealth of experience
Right.
and a network of contacts, which can be invaluable.
Yeah,
But on the other hand, there's less autonomy.
I see.
The pressure to deliver on the PE firm's investment thesis is immense,
Right.
and the timelines are often very compressed.
That makes sense. PE firms are looking for a return on their investment,
Yes.
and they're not known for their patience.
Right.
So how does this impact the CEO's ability to think long-term?
That's a great question.
Can you really focus on building a legacy when you're operating on a tight timeline?
In the public company context, we saw CEOs like Lou Hay at NextEra Energy,
Right.
who spent years building sustainable value,
Uh-huh.
not just chasing short-term gains. But in private equity, the focus is often on exiting gracefully,
I did a great thing.
selling the company for a profit within a few years.
So the CEO is almost like a relay runner, trying to get the company in the best possible shape to hand off to the next owner.
Exactly.
That must create a different set of priorities and leadership challenges.
It certainly does. And it has implications for talent development as well.
Okay.
If you know you're only going to be at the helm for a few years,
Right.
you might be less inclined to invest in building a deep leadership bench.
Yeah.
Something we saw was crucial for long-term success in public companies.
It's like the difference between planting a tree that you'll enjoy the shade from
Uh-huh.
versus planting one for future generations.
Yeah.
Both are valuable, but they require different approaches.
Right.
So are you saying that PE-backed companies are lagging behind in terms of talent development?
Historically, yes. But that's starting to change.
Oh, really?
As PE firms hold on to companies for longer periods
Go.
and diversify their investment strategies, they're realizing that strong leadership is essential for driving long-term value creation.
Interesting.
They're starting to invest more in developing their CEOs and building a stronger pipeline of future leaders.
It's like that evolution we see in the later stages of the CEO life cycle.
Exactly.
Early on, you're focused on proving yourself, delivering those quick wins.
Right.
But as you mature,
Yeah.
you start to think more about building a lasting legacy and setting the company up for success
Well
even after you're gone.
Exactly. And this brings us to another critical aspect of the CEO journey.
Okay.
Succession planning.
Succession planning.
It's something you specifically wanted to explore in this deep dive.
Yes, absolutely.
And for good reason.
This is a topic that resonates with me personally.
Okay.
The sources paint a pretty sobering picture.
Yeah.
Nearly half of companies don't have a solid succession plan in place.
Wow.
And even when they do, it's often a messy process full of unexpected twists and turns.
Yeah, the Disney succession drama is a perfect example.
Disney.
They had multiple internal candidates who had been groomed for the role, but the process was ultimately derailed by personal dynamics, board politics, and a desire for control.
It's a good reminder that succession planning isn't just about strategy.
Right.
It's about people, egos, and the very human challenge of letting go.
That's right. It can be tough for a successful CEO to step back,
Yeah,
to believe that someone else can lead the company just as well.
right.
The sources call this the generative thinking trap.
Generative thinking.
They point to A.G. Lafley's second stint at P&G. He was brilliant in his first run,
Right.
but he struggled to replicate that success when he returned
Yeah.
because he was so attached to his previous playbook.
It's like a coach who keeps running the same plays even though the game has changed.
Exactly.
So how do you avoid falling into this trap?
Okay.
How does a CEO prepare for a smooth and successful transition?
Well, first and foremost, succession planning should be an ongoing process.
Okay.
Not something you scramble to address at the last minute.
Right.
It's about constantly developing potential successors,
Ah.
giving them challenging assignments, providing mentorship,
Right.
and creating a culture where leadership development is a top priority.
It sounds like this always be grooming approach
Yeah,
requires a company-wide commitment to talent development,
absolutely.
not just a top-down directive.
And the CHRO, the Chief Human Resources Officer, plays a critical role in this process.
The CHRO.
They're responsible for identifying high potential leaders, creating development plans,
Right.
and ensuring that succession planning is integrated into the company's overall talent strategy.
So they're like the architect of the leadership pipeline,
Yeah.
making sure there's a steady stream of talented individuals ready to step into those key roles.
That's a great way to put it. But it's not just about the CHRO.
Right.
The board also needs to be actively involved.
Okay.
They should be interacting with potential successors, observing them in action,
Yeah.
and providing feedback throughout the process.
It's about building relationships.
Yeah.
And getting a deeper understanding of their leadership capabilities. Not just reviewing resumes when the CEO decides to retire.
Exactly. And here's another crucial point.
Yeah.
The importance of diversity and inclusion in this talent pool.
Right.
We know there's a significant lack of diversity at the CEO level,
Yeah.
and intentional succession planning can help address that.
It's about creating a more inclusive leadership pipeline,
Yes.
breaking down those barriers, and ensuring that talented individuals from all backgrounds have a fair shot at the top job.
Couldn't agree more. And when it comes to selecting the next CEO,
Yeah.
there should be clear criteria in place.
Okay.
It can't just be based on gut feelings or personal preferences.
So it's about having a structured process.
Yeah.
A set of objective measures that everyone agrees on.
Right.
To ensure that the best candidate is chosen,
Yes.
regardless of the background or personal connections.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even with the best planning and the most qualified candidate,
Right.
transitions can be tricky.
Oh, really?
The outgoing CEO might not fully let go. The incoming CEO might hesitate to make their own mark.
Yeah.
Or the board might disengage after the selection is made.
So it's not just about picking the right person.
Right.
It's about managing that handover effectively.
Exactly.
Making sure there's a smooth transfer of power and a shared sense of purpose.
You nailed it. And that's why a structured transition plan is so important.
Okay.
It should outline clear roles and responsibilities for both the outgoing and incoming CEO. And it should address both the practical aspects of the handoff
Right.
and the more emotional elements of leadership transition.
It's like creating a roadmap for success.
Yeah.
A guide for both the departing and the incoming CEO to navigate this critical period.
Absolutely. But what about in the world of private equity?
Yeah.
How does the succession process differ when you have a PE firm involved?
That's a key question, and it's what we'll delve into after the break.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. So we were just discussing how succession planning works, in a more traditional corporate setting. But now I'm really curious about how that translates to the private equity world.
Okay.
It's a whole different ballgame, right?
It is. The level of involvement from the PE firm is the biggest difference.
Okay.
They're not just passively observing.
Right.
They're active participants in choosing and developing the next CEO.
So it's like having another set of eyes on the process.
Yeah.
Another layer of scrutiny, but also potentially another layer of support.
Right.
What are some of the advantages of having the PE firm so deeply involved?
Well, PE firms bring a ton of experience to the table. They've seen it all.
Yeah.
They've worked with countless CEOs.
Right.
And they have a vast network of contacts
Right.
that can be incredibly valuable in identifying and vetting potential successors.
I see.
They can also provide guidance and support to the CEO throughout the transition process.
It's almost like having an external advisory board
Yeah.
dedicated to making sure the leadership transition goes smoothly, but I imagine there are potential downsides as well. What if the PE firm's vision for the company clashes with the CEO's vision?
Right.
Or what if they push for a successor who's not the best fit for the company's long-term needs?
Those are definitely valid concerns. The PE firm might prioritize a successor who aligns perfectly with their investment thesis, even if that person isn't necessarily the best choice for leading the company in the long run.
I see.
It's crucial for the CEO to have a strong voice in the process
Right.
and to advocate for candidates they truly believe in.
So it's a balancing act.
It
The
is.
CEO needs to collaborate with the PE firm,
Right.
but also stand their ground and make sure the company's best interests are being served.
Exactly.
It sounds like a lot of trust and open communication is needed.
Absolutely. And this actually highlights a broader theme we've seen throughout our deep dive into the CEO life cycle.
Oh, okay.
The importance of strong relationships.
The relationship.
Whether it's with the board,
Right.
with investors, with employees, or with a PE firm. The CEO's success hinges on their ability to build and maintain those relationships.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's not just about being a brilliant strategist or a financial whiz.
Right.
It's about being a leader who can connect with people,
Yeah,
inspire them, and build a shared sense of purpose.
absolutely.
This has been a fascinating conversation,
It has.
and I feel like I've gained a much deeper understanding of what it takes to succeed as a CEO.
Good.
What would you say is the most important takeaway for our listener today?
I think the key message is that leadership is a journey of continuous growth and evolution.
Okay.
Whether you're just starting out as a CEO
Right.
or you're nearing the end of your tenure,
Uh-huh.
there's always more to learn, more to improve, and more to achieve.
It's not a destination. It's
Yeah.
a path.
Yeah,
And it's not a solo climb either.
that's right.
You need the right people around you,
Mm-hmm.
the right mentors, the right team, and the right mindset to reach your full potential.
I love that analogy. And as our listener reflects on their own leadership journey, I encourage them to think critically about the different phases of the CEO life cycle.
Okay.
What skills do they need to develop? What experiences do they need to seek out?
Right.
And most importantly, how can they build the kind of relationships that will empower them to lead effectively and create a lasting legacy?
Those are great questions to ponder. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the CTO life cycle.
My pleasure.
It's been an insightful and thought-provoking journey. We'll see you next time for another exploration of the world of leadership.
It's